when Japan was looking to come out of their period of just decimation post-nuclear Holocaust, right? We know Truman dropped the bombs. And then Japan was jacked up for a long time. And an event like that, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, can set a country back forever. But what happens is they went through a period called the Meiji Restoration. And a big part of the vision for it was they needed to build their own industries. You know, they wanted to build their own industries and make Japan a world power. The way that they figured they should do that is by building their own things and denying their people the right to import from outside. Say only buy from inside Japan. We're not importing stuff from outside Japan. Why is that so important? Because they wanted to start a car company. They wanted to build global brands of car manufacturing, vehicles, automobiles. But you're not going to be able to do it successfully if people in Japan always want to buy Ford or Mercedes or these other international companies from America and Germany. So they wanted people to buy from Japan. But the Japanese cars were inferior because it's a new company. It just started, you know? So it's not as fast, it's not as sleek, it's not as comfortable. But Japan was like, y'all are gonna buy it anyway. Because when you buy our stuff here in Japan, we can improve the quality of what we're producing. We can invest more into research and development. And eventually, if we stick with this, we can build our own global brands. And that's what Japan did. So now all over the world, you know about Toyota, you know about Mitsubishi. You know, you wouldn't have heard about these things before if Japan wasn't able to focus on being nationalistic and secure what's in their own economic best interest. And that means that they have to figure out a way to overcome the brand mania of everybody wanting to go pursue whatever's being produced by the West. You see? And that principle, we can talk more about like the ecological significance of cars, but just the economic principle of doing for self and self-reliance and self-sufficiency and building from scratch, you know, is a very important principle. And the allure of the foreigners, the allure of what somebody else has to offer, the allure of how shiny and pretty everybody else's inventions are, it prevents people from being able to appreciate humble beginnings. You know, humble beginnings. So as long as the Israelites in ancient Israel were worshiping the gods of the Egyptians and looking at all the things that Egypt had to offer, or worshiping the gods of the Assyrians, or worshiping the gods of the whoever, the Babylonians, the Persians, you know, the Greeks, the Romans, when you are being tied into their psychological world, into their images, they're imprinting their superiority onto your mind and subconsciously reinforcing a vision of your inferiority because you don't have what they have. But the reason why they have what they have is because they built it over time. So how about you build over time? And that's what the Hebrew prophets were constantly trying to emphasize, these principles. And the religions of the ancient world were like transport systems into the psychology of the people to cause them to gravitate to the nation that produced the religion. And so that's why we're able to go and make this correlation and say that the way that these corporations are moving today is in a borderline theological realm in terms of the influence that they have on people's minds and hearts and how it pulls them into Western culture and civilization. You see what I mean? And so it's a serious subject. You think it's just a shoe, you think it's just this, you think it's just that, you think it's just some fashion, some things of that nature, but it's an idea, it's a lifestyle. It's an image of what success looks like, an image of what beauty looks like, an image of what fun looks like. And all of these things, success, fun, beauty, all the things that make somebody feel like they're having a good life, none of it comes from Africa. Nothing that I need to do to have a good life comes from Africa. If I want to look successful, I don't want to look African. If I want to sound successful, I don't need to sound African. I need to sound as close to Europe as I can. You know, I need everything about me needs to be closer to them because they represent success. That's the way that the psychological manipulations of these graven images operates in today's world. You see what I mean? On a global political scale. And that takes us to the second point on the screen, which was the inferiority complex. And I think we covered the inferiority complex sufficiently in the previous class. You know, we went in on it, you know, quite a bit, but you could just see how that perception that you're not enough, you know, and that no matter how hard you try, you're not good enough. But if you work with me, I can make you good enough. That's basically what the serpent told Eve in the Genesis. He's coming along talking about a tree desired to make one wise. She was already wise, you know? Her husband was taught the wisdom of the creator in the beginning. Like she had access to all the divine wisdom. She came from him. She was in the Garden of Eden with the Most High, walking around, eating fruits and vegetables, all kind of good stuff. Here you come talking about, you know, I got some wisdom for you. It's like, he came along downplaying the significance of what she already had, making her feel like she needed something else in order to be satisfied. You know, and then with that insecurity, with that sense of insufficiency or inadequacy, she became vulnerable and receptive to an ungodly influence. And so likewise, our people as quote unquote Eve in today's world have been convinced by the institutes of deception that they're not enough, you know, and they're emotionally drained and their self-esteem is taken away. And they feel like in order to become somebody, they need to adopt Western culture, Western religion, Western philosophy, all these different things. And they immerse themselves sometimes in drugs or in alcohol, in skin bleaching, and all kind of different things that they want to do to their body and to their physiology and into their mindset. Because in order to become valuable, in order to become a person of substance, I need to get it from there. What I already have isn't good enough. Who I already am isn't enough. There's nothing in my culture that I need to learn more about. Scrap that, go get what somebody else has to offer. That's the spiritual virus that's been plaguing the mind. And so that inferiority complex operates on multiple levels, you know? And that's why our spirit today is all about the restoration. So with that being said, Zakai, you can load the book up. Get us into the first chapter.
Sure, there's a question in the comment from Doda Amina. She states, what is the difference of inferiority and imposter syndrome?
Okay, so they're very similar, but they're not exactly the same. So inferiority complex refers specifically to your sense of an inability, right? Compared to someone else. In order to feel inferior, there's somebody who you're putting in a superior position. So you're like on a seesaw and you feel like you're on the bottom end of the seesaw. Imposter syndrome isn't based on you comparing yourself to someone else. It's you being in a position and feeling like you don't deserve to be there.
Okay.
Someone with an inferiority complex might, like on a practical level, say, I could never be in that person's shoes and not even try to be there. Someone with an imposter syndrome is in that person's position, but feels like they're not worthy. And then when they feel like they're not worthy, it makes them feel insecure, makes them doubt, makes them self-criticize, makes them do all kind of stuff, makes them feel like pretty soon everybody's gonna see that I don't really belong here, you know? So somebody with an inferiority complex is less likely to even try. Somebody with an imposter syndrome is more likely to quit, you know, or to back out of a position that they're in.